Hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a software developer in a bustling city, surrounded by towering skyscrapers and the constant hum of life. I spend most of my days in front of a screen, writing lines of code that bring ideas to life. On the surface, my life might seem ordinary, routine driven, and predictable. But what makes it extraordinary is the love story I'm about to share with you. Her name is Emma. She's 27 years old and works as a graphic designer. Emma has this incredible ability to take a blank canvas and turn it into something magical. She's creative, passionate, and endlessly inspiring. Emma loves rain, how it smells, how it feels, and the way it turns the world into a soft, dreamy painting. She's also obsessed with coffee, always experimenting with different blends and brewing methods. We met at a small cafe one rainy evening. It wasn't a planned meeting, just one of those serendipitous moments that you only realize was significant when you look back. I was there trying to escape the rain, sitting by the window with a steaming cup of coffee and my laptop open. I was stuck on a particularly tricky piece of code when I heard a voice behind me. Mind if I sit here? I looked up and saw her, Emma, with her damp hair and an umbrella dripping with raindrops. She was holding a sketchbook, her eyes bright with curiosity. The cafe was crowded, and mine was the only table with an empty seat. Of course, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. She smiled and sat down, her presence filling the small space with an inexplicable warmth. For the first few minutes, we didn't speak. She opened her sketchbook and I returned to my work, but I couldn't help glancing at her. She was drawing something, her hand moving with graceful confidence, and I was intrigued. "What are you working on?" I finally asked, unable to contain my curiosity. She looked up, her cheeks flushing slightly. "Just a random idea," she said, turning the sketchbook so I could see. It was a sketch of the cafe, but with an ethereal touch. The people were drawn as whimsical characters, and the rain outside was transformed into a cascade of sparkling light. "That's amazing," I said, genuinely impressed. "Thanks," she replied, her smile growing. "What about you? What are you working on?" We started talking, and before we knew it, hours had passed. The rain had stopped, the cafe had emptied, and yet we stayed, lost in conversation. Emma told me about her love for art, how she found beauty in the mundane, and how she believed that every moment had the potential to become a masterpiece. I told her about my work, my passion for solving problems, and my love for simplicity. That evening marked the beginning of something extraordinary. Over the next few months, Emma and I became inseparable. We spent countless evenings exploring the city, discovering hidden gems, and sharing our dreams. She introduced me to her world of colors and creativity, while I showed her the structured elegance of coding. We were opposites in many ways, but that's what made our connection so special. One of my favorite memories with Emma was a spontaneous road trip we took to a nearby countryside. It was her idea. She wanted to escape the city and find inspiration in nature. We packed a few essentials, hopped into my car, and set off with no specific destination in mind. We ended up at a quaint little village surrounded by rolling hills and blooming wildflowers. Emma was in her element, sketching everything she saw, while I captured the moments with my camera. We stayed in a cozy bed and breakfast where we spent the evenings by the fireplace talking about life and dreams. But love isn't always easy, and neither was our journey. There were misunderstandings, moments of doubt, and times when our differences felt like obstacles. Emma's free spirited nature sometimes clashed with my need for order, and my logical approach to life sometimes frustrated her. One particularly tough period came when Emma got a job offer from a prestigious design firm in another city. It was an incredible opportunity for her, but it also meant we'd have to be apart. "I don't want to leave you," she said one night, tears streaming down her face. "And I don't want you to give up your dream for me," I replied, my heart breaking at the thought of losing her. After many long conversations, we decided to make it work. Emma moved to the new city and we transitioned into a long distance relationship. It wasn't easy, but we made it a point to stay connected, visiting each other whenever we could and finding creative ways to keep the spark alive. One of the most beautiful moments in our relationship happened during one of these visits. Emma had been working on a major project for her new job, and she invited me to the gallery where it was being showcased. When I arrived, I was blown away. Her work was breathtaking, a series of paintings that told a story of love, resilience, and hope. As I stood there taking it all in, Emma came up behind me. "Do you like it?" she asked, her voice filled with anticipation. "Emma," I said, turning to her, "it's perfect. You're amazing." That night, as we walked back to her apartment, I realized something. Emma wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my muse, my inspiration, and the person who made my life a masterpiece. Eventually, we found a way to bridge the distance. Emma decided to start her own design studio and she moved back to our city. We found a cozy apartment together, a space where her art and my technology blended seamlessly. Emma and I were settling into our new chapter together. Our cozy apartment became a reflection of us, a blend of her creative chaos and my structured calm. One corner of the living room was her art studio, filled with paints, brushes, and half-finished canvases. The other corner housed my workstation, with monitors, cables, and sticky notes. In between, we had a simple wooden dining table where we shared meals, laughter, and dreams. Every morning began with Emma brewing her experimental coffee blends, filling the apartment with a warm, comforting aroma. I'd watch her hum a soft tune as she worked her magic with the coffee press, her hair slightly tousled from sleep. "Taste this one," she'd say, handing me a cup. Sometimes it was incredible, other times it was an acquired taste, but I always appreciated the effort she put into the smallest things. In the evenings, we'd often take long walks around the neighborhood. Emma would point out the colors in the sky, the texture of the leaves, or the way the streetlights cast shadows. She had this gift of noticing beauty in things I never paid attention to. "You're like an app for seeing the world in HD," I joked once, and she laughed, her laughter like music that made everything feel lighter. One night as we walked back home, she stopped abruptly. "Ryan," she said, looking up at me with those sparkling eyes, "do you ever feel like you're living in a story?" "What do you mean?" I asked, tilting my head. She gestured around us. "Like this moment, the two of us, the quiet street, the stars above. It feels too perfect to be real." I smiled and pulled her closer. "Maybe we're the lucky ones who get to live the kind of story people dream about." Her cheeks turned pink and she rested her head on my shoulder. I like that. As time passed, life threw its challenges our way. One of the biggest was when Emma's father fell seriously ill. She was devastated, and for the first time I saw the vibrant, unstoppable Emma falter. We flew to her hometown where she spent weeks by her father's bedside, holding his hand and reading to him from his favorite books. During those weeks, I tried to be her rock. I took care of things at home, brought her food when she forgot to eat, and simply sat with her in silence when words weren't enough. Watching her care for her father, I realized just how deep her love and compassion ran. One evening, as we sat in the hospital waiting room, she turned to me, her eyes brimming with tears. Ryan, what if I lose him? I took her hand in mine. Then we'll face it together, I said softly. But for now, he's still here, and you're giving him everything he needs. You're strong, Emma, stronger than you know. Her father eventually recovered, and though the experience left us both emotionally drained, it also brought us closer. It reminded us of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. As our relationship grew deeper, so did our dreams for the future. Emma's design studio began to flourish, and she started getting recognition for her unique style. I, too, was making strides in my career, leading a team on an ambitious project that had been a dream of mine for years. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I came home to find Emma waiting for me with a candlelit dinner. She'd made lasagna, my favorite, and decorated the table with little fairy lights. "What's the occasion?" I asked, grinning. "No occasion," she said, pulling me into a hug. "I just wanted to remind you how much you mean to me." As we ate, we talked about everything, our hopes, our fears, our plans. "Do you ever think about the future?" she asked, her voice soft. "All the time," I said, taking her hand, "and every time I do, you're in it." Tears welled up in her eyes and she smiled. "Me too, Ryan. Me too." Months later, on a crisp autumn day, I planned a surprise for Emma. We drove to the countryside, to the same little village where we'd taken our first road trip. As we walked through the fields of wildflowers, I stopped and turned to her. "Emma," I began, my heart pounding, "from the moment I met you, you've made my world brighter, more colorful, and more meaningful. You've shown me what it means to truly live, to love, and to dream. I can't imagine my life without you. Will you marry me?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment she was speechless. Then, with tears streaming down her face, she whispered, "Yes, Ryan. 1,000 times yes." Our wedding was a simple yet magical affair, held in a garden surrounded by flowers and our closest friends and family. As we exchanged vows, I looked into her eyes and knew without a doubt that she was my forever. Over the years, Emma and I built a life filled with moments that felt like a beautiful mosaic, pieces of joy, struggle, love, and growth that came together to form something truly unique. One of the biggest changes came when we decided to start a family. It wasn't a decision we took lightly. We spent countless nights talking about our fears, hopes, and dreams. Emma worried about balancing her career and motherhood, and I wondered if I'd be a good father. But we both knew that together we could face anything. When Emma told me she was pregnant, I felt a mix of overwhelming joy and nervousness. She announced it in the most Emma-like way. She handed me a small hand-painted mug that read, World's best dad in training. I stared at the mug, then at her, and back at the mug, my brain struggling to catch up. Wait, are you serious? I finally managed to say. She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears and laughter. Yes, Ryan, we're going to be parents. I pulled her into a hug, my own tears threatening to spill. Emma, this is the best news of my life. Pregnancy brought its own set of challenges, but it also deepened our bond in ways I hadn't imagined. Emma was radiant, even on the days when she felt anything but. She'd curl up on the couch, a blanket draped over her, sketching ideas for a new nursery collection she planned to design. I'd bring her snacks, often an odd mix of cravings like pickles and ice cream, and we'd laugh about how life was already unpredictable with a little one on the way. When our daughter Lily was born, the world seemed to stop. Holding her tiny, wrinkled form in my arms, I felt a love so fierce and overwhelming that it took my breath away. Emma, exhausted but glowing, looked at me and whispered, "She's perfect, isn't she?" "She is," I agreed, my voice thick with emotion, just like her mom. Life with Lily was an adventure from day one. She inherited Emma's curious eyes and my stubborn determination, which meant she was always exploring and getting into mischief. Watching her grow was like watching the world through a new lens. Every small discovery she made felt like a miracle. Emma and I learned to navigate the chaos together, finding joy in the little moments. Late night feedings became a time for whispered conversations about our dreams for Lily. Her first steps were met with cheers and happy tears, and her first word, Dada, made me feel like the luckiest man alive. Emma's art evolved too. She started a children's line inspired by Lily, and it quickly became one of her most successful projects. Watching her juggle motherhood and her career was awe-inspiring. She had this incredible ability to pour her love into everything she did, whether it was painting a mural in Lily's room or creating designs that resonated with parents everywhere. As Lily grew older, our little family found a rhythm. We'd spend weekends exploring parks, baking cookies. Lily loved making a mess with the flour, and having movie nights where Emma and I inevitably ended up singing along to animated musicals. One evening, after putting Lily to bed, Emma and I sat on the porch sipping tea and watching the stars. "Do you ever think about how far we've come?" she asked, her voice soft. "All the time," I replied, taking her hand. "From that first meeting at the cafe to now, it feels like a dream." She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "It's better than a dream, Ryan. It's our reality, and I wouldn't trade it for anything." Years later, as I sit here writing this, I'm still in awe of the life we've built. Emma is in her studio, now teaching Lily the basics of painting. Their laughter echoes through the house, a sound that fills me with warmth and gratitude. Life isn't always easy, but it's beautiful in its imperfections. Emma and Lily remind me every day that love is the greatest gift we can give and receive. And as I watch them now, my heart feels full, knowing that this story, our story, is one I'll treasure forever.